Another question I see, or another misconception I often see on some of these YouTube videos, is people challenging the constitutionality of checkpoints. As long as they're done right, they are constitutionally valid. The U.S. Supreme Court and the Virginia courts have both upheld the legality of certain types of DUI checkpoints and other types of checkpoints as well. In order for it to be a constitutionally valid checkpoint, a couple things need to happen though. First off, the officers on the scene cannot have discretion on who to pull over. So if they're randomly pulling over whoever they feel like it, that's not constitutionally valid. But if there's a plan in place, saying like we're going to pull over every third car, or we're going to pull over every car, then that's not subject to racial biases or gut feelings, and it's less prone to abuse. So the first rule is there has to be a predetermined way of deciding who gets pulled over and who doesn't. Now, if you do something illegal while you're in the checkpoint area and the officers see it, they can pull you over just like they can any other day. So if you try to run past the DUI checkpoint or you make an illegal U-turn, they can pull you over even if you're not the assigned car that was supposed to be pulled over. But as long as they have a pre-approved plan that dictates who gets pulled over, and the officers on the scene don't get to decide that issue, it's generally considered, or it's one of the ways that distinguish a valid versus an unvalid checkpoint. Another issue is whether the intrusion on the innocent public is great or not. There's this balancing test between how important is it to catch these types of criminals versus how much are we willing to put out the public. Okay, so how long are cars stuck in traffic because of this DUI checkpoint? So if they set up a DUI checkpoint at like an event center, which they often do in Prince William County, then the question becomes, okay, are they gumming up traffic? And if you're gumming up traffic too much, it becomes a constitutionally invalid DUI checkpoint. Because instead of people just being able to go through the checkpoint in a matter of seconds, they're stuck, 15, 30 minutes in traffic. Suddenly, what the police are doing, it's causing too much burden on the public to justify the benefits. Another issue is the level of intrusiveness. So for instance, if you get picked to be inspected at a checkpoint, what does that entail? How invasive is it? If it's pretty much somebody shining a flashlight in your face and saying, hey, have you had anything to drink tonight? If not, move along. Generally that's considered constitutionally valid. If it turns into like a 15-minute discussion and where they want you to get out of a car and do all these tests, that's too much. Now, the exception to that is if during that brief, uninvasive first contact, the officer detects evidence of DUI, he can then pull you out and do a more invasive inspection. So what it is they've got to have a pre-assigned plan to determine who gets pulled over. It needs to be a minimum amount of burden on the innocent public, and two, the level of intrusion when you are picked to be inspected has to be low, unless investigation reveals evidence that justifies a more invasive inspection. So as long as all those things are done right, it's considered a legal, constitutionally valid DUI checkpoint. If it's not, there's problems. And this is where a good attorney can really help you out. With DUI checkpoints, there's a lot of evidence that has to be brought in for the government to be able to prove that what they did was constitutionally valid. Because the burden is on the government to prove that their checkpoint is valid. And if they can't meet that burden, then the checkpoint's illegal, the stop's illegal, and any evidence that stems from that gets thrown out of court. So generally that means you win the DUI case.